you can get in trouble on YouTube for attacking other YouTube creators. Sorry, Ethan. Talking about people's looks and that kind of thing. But, I've always said that the way you look colors your perspective on life. And I can't help but think that a lot of these people like this and others, if they drop like 20 pounds, just ate a little bit less, threw some more vegetables on the plate, that kind of thing, I strongly suspect that a lot of the bitterness and the rage and the Trump derangement syndrome, you don't see a lot of people with Trump derangement syndrome who are fit and healthy and happy with their life, and they're busy taking care of their kids or running their business because they're too busy. Things are, they're taking care of themselves. They're eating their vegetables. They're jogging where they can, squatting and deadlifting, whatever. You get a lot of these people who are so outraged. They're about 30 pounds overweight, a little soft. They're not getting the attention they once got. A lot of times you see these kids on Twitter who are, I'm a pansexual, dragon, non-binary otherkin. Because, they want the oppression points. All right, I get that. But then you look at them and they're, I don't know, 20 or whatever, and they're 30 pounds overweight. Well, if you're in your teens or early 20s, you should not be 30 pounds overweight. That is insane. And I get the feeling a lot of these kids, if they're in high school or something, they're trying to wear makeup and wear ladies' clothes or stuff like that. Really? Are you really that? Or is it just that you're 30 pounds overweight and you're not really special at anything? You're not a great musician or great just academics or anything, or you're definitely not good at sports because you're carrying around 30 pounds of lard. And I'm a big fatty myself now, but, not when I was in my teens and 20s. It's like I was talking to some other fatties about this. This great big fat lady and I were talking about fat kids, and we were laughing. It's like we were both saying, to see so many young kids obese is scary. Your joints, man, you're going to be fucked when you get a little bit older. Anyway, it's like all this like attention-seeking behavior. That's what it is. It's attention. No, you're not trans, whatever. You're not dragon. You're not a cat person. You're not a Rachel Dolezal. You're just a fat kid seeking attention. Stop eating so much. Start moving around a little bit. Anyway, so Chuck Wendig. I'm probably going to get in trouble with this. I guess this YouTube channel is not for the long haul anyway. He's the open mouth soy guy. And when the mob decides to F you in the A, and you look around and you see that it's your crowd, the soy people turn on each other all the time. Because, like I said, they hate themselves. And when they get together, it looks like a collection of people who were picked last for sports and for dates, and they look like they pay for sex, even the women. The odd thing you notice about woke feminist type people is that they're never in shape. They're either too fat or too skinny. None of them look like they enjoy a nice jog in the hills. They're the type of people who go for a walk to get exercise, but smoke a cigarette the whole time and sip from a flask. What was this for headline? Women with PMS should be kept away from computers. That will probably alienate my last female listener. It used to be that the appearance of impropriety was the impropriety itself because you were dealing with a group of trustworthy peers. People knew that defamation had consequences. But Twitter is full of low IQ individuals, and yes, I know that I'm no genius myself. You have hysterical women on their periods and teenagers who are just too young to know that the people whose lives they're destroying are real people, that in 20 years they'll be the person getting their life destroyed online. By then, the net will probably be a hologram that you interact with using thoughts alone. Chuck Wendig, months ago, dared to complain when a library was offering pirated copies of his material during the whole Wu-Flu thing. Economics 101. If you give away the milk, nobody will buy the cow. Chuck makes a living by selling stories. How dare he complain when people steal them? Though it would have saved him money in the long run if he just kept his big fat mouth shut. Apparently, he didn't know which way the wind was blowing and he got swamped. She's worried about some kid's pronouns who got killed by the driver up in, I don't know where it was. When you're worried about pronouns of someone who was playing on the highway and got killed, you're just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. So Chuck Wendig he's very far left-wing, he's pro-gay, all that kind of stuff, but rat eats rat. There is no loyalty among commies, and they turned on him. So this is a guy who hates Comicsgate and right-of-center groups, but he also hates this group of left-wing people who are further to the left than he is. And that's all it took for Chuck to get on their bad side. Plus, I'm assuming by the name that, she goes on this long diatribe where she carefully points out the ethnicities of everyone involved. So I'm guessing by Chuck Wendig, that name's probably German, so he doesn't get any oppression points. So now everyone on the left and the right hates him. The soy people never think that their own mob will turn on them. Though I kind of get the feeling that some people in the Chaz up in Seattle, I think some of those dumb white kids might have started to learn a lesson. Remember Man-Eaters with Chelsea Kane? I keep talking about due process and why it's so important for a civilized people. America is a mix of high and low IQ people, but everyone gets the vote and everyone has a smartphone. You have people on Twitter who can barely read or write, but they can organize a riot. That's not exaggeration. I saw it yesterday. It turns out that the organizer used his real name. Somebody called the cops. The cop posted, "Hey buddy, you have an outstanding warrant. Why don't you call us up and arrange your peaceful surrender?" Now, if you and I had warrants, hey, we were all young once, we wouldn't be on social media. We'd be living quietly. But it's a difference between groups with people over and under 100 IQ. In somewhere like Finland, you've got 95% of the country is over 100 IQ, but in America, those numbers are substantially different. America has a lot of people who are borderline retarded. And yes, 90% of them are on the left, because you'd have to be to think communism will work. It'll work this time. If we try it again. If I'm in charge. The point is, you got millions of very slow people in America who literally are too dumb to understand due process. They hate the Kathleen Kennedy Club. The most dangerous thing about that club was that they bypassed due process. They thought someone was guilty of an odious crime, and they passed judgment extrajudicially without a fair trial. They were literally a lynch mob. That's exactly what this group of Twitter developmentally disabled people is doing right now. They hear an unfounded rumor about someone. The first logic gate is skin color and perceived oppression points and cultural zeitgeist. It's a constantly shifting calculus for liberals to determine who is the oppressed and who is the oppressor. And normal people, even outside of like English common law or French law, would start to analyze the facts and the evidence and then the elements of the law that is in issue and see if you can match up facts and evidence to elements of law and then match up the elements of the defense. But that's not how people on the left work. They look at your skin color and they start assigning points based on an arbitrary hierarchy that changes year by year because they have no principles. They have no foundation. That's why so many of them are so awkward and uncomfortable and angry because they don't have anything. This is why I honestly think I could see Christianity making a big comeback, because even people who kind of poo-pooed the idea of Christianity when we were kids start looking at it as like, forget the religion aspect of it. Even if you're not into that, just as a set of guidelines, it seems like people need religion. And if you don't have some religion, you're going to make one up. And in the absence of an established religion like the New Testament, the shit they come up with is communism, socialism, stuff that leads to gulags, starvation, or putting people in tires and lighting them on fire, which I've actually seen 2 videos of that happening in Africa, and that was 2 videos too much. Due process is good in theory unless it's a more privileged person accusing a less privileged person. Privilege is measured by skin color, sex, mental illness, religion, and wealth. But there is a hard line in the sand for politics. They would struggle, snuggle, and extinguish from this mortal coil a black female Republican, or beat a gay Asian reporter, or even murder 2 black boys in Seattle. Even liberals get the bullet. If you're not with them, you're against them. Chaz had a half dozen shootings within its barricades and 2 fatalities, and there are more shootings and fatalities outside of its, I don't know, property lines. The shootings were all black on black. Antifa said the black victims were fascists. The dead 16-year-old black boy is a fascist. We were always at war with Oceania. And he was interviewed, the boy's father was interviewed on Fox with Hannity, I guess. And it was heartbreaking to hear him. Even Hannity was having a hard time with it. I watched it, and it was hard to watch. Black Lives Matter said it must have been white people who snuck in there and did the shootings. They also said the same about Chicago. Over the weekend, there were 80 to 90 shootings, with 24 people killed. I saw some videos of these still moving bodies, mostly black kids. But to mention that is not politically correct, and they'll just throw you off of YouTube or any other social media platform. Nobody really believes that white people are sneaking into Chaz or Chicago or wherever and killing people, because it's insane. Anyway, so this girl, the chubby one with the curled hair, really has issues with Euro-American men. It must be all the violent crime that they don't commit. Oh, that's a picture of the white Jaguar driven by a guy from Africa, 27-year-old driver, and oddly enough, they don't, the media, BuzzFeed, Vox, Slate, Salon, they don't mention the driver's race, but they mention the color of the car, as you can see. They mention the color of the car several times, and that it's a white luxury car, because they want you to associate that color with the death of 2 activists at a Black Lives Matter event. I know it sounds a little crazy, but this is how propaganda works in things like the BuzzFeed and the basically Marxist media. So this chick goes on a long Twitter, and I guess she didn't know who the driver of this thing is, because once they found out the driver is African, they seemed to drop the story. So she goes on a long Twitter tirade, carefully pointing out that people in the industry are Arabs or Latinas, or she calls them Latinx, but it's either Latino or Latina. Take a push. So for some reason, she doesn't point out that Wendig is German. But why does it matter if someone is Arab or Latina? Are you implying that they're treated differently? Yes, in modern comics, they are treated differently. You have to be effing blind not to see that. Her name is Jam Gates. Why she hates white men so much is absolutely beyond me. But if she spoke this way about Arabs or Latinas and not just white Chuck Wendig, she would get destroyed on Twitter and she would never get hired again. Okay, here's why I think they hate men of European descent and are so frustrated. Well, I guess she's queer, and that might have something to do with it. Because despite their narrative and propaganda, crime and struggle snuggles is 90% non-white. So the only thing these cat moms can really latch on to are stuff like microaggressions, and they totally blow. It's the false equivalency. They'll look at some German guy like Chuck Wendig committing some microaggression, but they'll completely ignore that a black guy just killed 2 girls. Guys like Chuck Wendig are not out there struggle snuggling or murdering for a pair of tennis shoes. The worst thing you can say about them is that they might say words that you disagree with. But cat moms are insanely frustrated, and they can't really attack the whites because the whites are mostly innocent. They just want to grill, bro. SCWs like Gates and Chuck Wendig or all the other idiots in comics, they don't have principles other than that Trump is a Nazi. Oddly enough, they also said that about Bush in 2000 to 2008. If you have principles that discrimination based on sex or ethnicity, immutable characteristics is bad, then it applies to everyone. Women are sexist, or at least they can be. Arabs and Latinas can be racist. But the left had to abandon that principle because it turned out that women are very, very sexist. You know this too. And non-European people can also be very racist. I grew up with black people. They can be a lot of fun, but yeah, they're insanely racist, and they don't give a darn. And actually, if I told you the stuff they fed me, the foods are just like, they're from the South, and South is a little bit different, but they ate all the cliche foods that, like, even to talk about it would be racist. And that's what we ate, all those cliche foods, because They tasted good. Oh, no, you're just marginalized. Just shut the fuck up, these goddamn liberals. But sexist women and racist black folk do not fit into their narrative. So no problem, they just redefine the language. Because this totally isn't a George Orwell novel. The other day, there were about 3 dozen admittedly openly black supremacists dressed like ISIS carrying rifles. Fine, no problem there. I totally support their right to assembly and the Second Amendment. But they were threatening people. They were stopping traffic and asking for reparations. Now that changes the legal equation. That's along the lines of assault with a deadly weapon or attempted robbery with a weapons enhancement. There's a guy in the truck who just kind of laughed them off. He didn't look like he gave a shit because you had 3 dozen idiots dressed up marching in the hot, humid Georgia weather. But black people marching demanding a black ethno-state sort of hurts the liberal agenda. So they post a picture of the Patriot group who were armed, smiling, no masks outside the Capitol. The liberals say there is no difference between the two groups. The Patriot group weren't stopping traffic, demanding money, and asking for their own ethno-state. That's a pretty big difference. Liberals hate the Second Amendment, except when it's armed black LARPers. That is the cognitive dissonance you can have when you don't have principles. Another liberal was in the comments, and she said that the white armed smiling guys without masks scared her, but she felt safe with the armed black dudes who were concealing their identity. Either she's a fucking retard or lying her ass off. I'm guessing it's a bit of both. These people have been brainwashed by Marxist teachers and media for decades into believing that whites are committing all this crime. They're not. You know it, I know it, and deep down, I think they probably know it also. So what delusions must one adhere to claim to be more afraid of smiling white guys who look like they just want a grill standing around with rifles? Liberalism, Trump derangement syndrome, and actually I think most of this is Trump derangement syndrome. Pre-2015, it was not nearly this bad. But they've had 4 years of the media calling Trump literally Hitler, and anyone who follows him is an actual fascist. A 60-year-old guy was driving his truck, stops at an intersection in Utah. There's some Antifa blocking him, but he slowly drives forward. Antifa swarms his truck. A 30-year-old Antifa guy pulls his 9 and fires into the truck, hitting the 60-year-old man. This happened a few days ago in Utah. I don't think normies realize how serious things have gotten. Oh, and for the black folk who want their own ethno-state, fine, I support you, go for it. But in 20 years, America is going to be a Mexican-majority country. And in case you haven't noticed, those relations between the groups aren't always so smooth. So I support the black militia like I support a white or a Mexican militia. But dressing all in black in the Georgia heat is kind of silly. The Boogaloo Boys grab their Aloha shirts, they grab a few mags and a water bottle, and they look like they're having fun. So I wonder if guys like Chuck Wendig will ever wake up. They actually might, because if you're a left-wing, fair-skinned dude, you're at the bottom of this imagined oppression hierarchy. Your own people will turn on you. You'll never be given the benefit of the doubt. You'll always have to watch your words. The next people to leave the Democratic plantation will be white women, because after you're told to check your privilege 100 times, you may start thinking twice about your status. That's the issue with the left. They keep moving left, and they play these intersectional games. After you're told that you're ignorant and need to educate yourself, and you can't complain or else you're istophobic, then even dumb white liberals will wake up and get tired of being a second-class citizen. And it would be freaking hysterical if Chuck finds his balls and says, fuck it, I'm joining Comicsgate. Anyway, wow, 18 minutes. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, guys. If you want to support the channel, click the links to send me comics or send me your Comicsgate project to be edited. And I will catch you all next episode.